All right, I'm going to go ahead and call the January Planning Board meeting to order. So we'll rise and do the pledge. The Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Gabby, can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Hayner,
Here.
Mr. Almquist,
Here.
Mr. Decker,
Here.
Mr. Moore. You're muted, Mr. Moore.
Here.
Mr. Stavropoulos,
Here.
Mr. Stoll. You are also muted. Chairman Ring.
Yes. Can we maybe, let me
Mr.
unmute Mr. Stowell.
Okay.
Here.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay. So before we begin, my name is Jeffrey Ring. I'm the new planning chairman. I'm moving over from the zoning board. I know many of the folks on the call from interactions and other business before the board. So appreciate seeing you all again. This will be my first meeting, and I apologize for any inconsistency in process or procedure as I get ramped up. So please feel free to set me on the right path. So thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion. I'm pushing.
I'll second that.
Gabby, can you call the roll on the minutes?
Ms. Hayner,
Yes.
Mr. Almquist,
Yes,
Mr. Decker,
he's muted.
Yeah, no, there. Yes.
Mr. Stavropoulos,
Yes.
Chairman Ring.
Yes. Okay, I would like to open the public hearing for Daniel Wynn. This is a major subdivision on 240 South Road. And this public hearing, I believe that looks like there's a number of neighbors that have come out. So this is your opportunity to speak for or against Mr. Wynn's project. What I'd ask you to do is unmute yourself, state your name and where you live for our records, and then go ahead and say what you want to say.
Jeffrey, we need a motion to open the meeting.
I second that.
Gabby, can you call the roll?
Ms. Hayner,
Yes.
Mr. Almquist,
Yes,
Mr. Decker,
Yes.
Mr. Stavropoulos,
Yes.
Chairman Ring.
Yes. All right.
Good evening, everyone, Mr. Ring, and board members, new and old. Let me get the ball rolling here. I'm Mike Viteri, surveyor, representing Mr. Wynn with a 4-lot subdivision located at 240 South Road. We are proposing 4 lots, lots 1 and 2 being 2 acres plus or minus, lot 3 being 3 acres plus or minus, and lot 4 being 4.5 acres plus or minus. As we talked last month, lots 1 and 2 will enter on a common drive easement with a maintenance agreement. We have received curb cuts for our common drive easement and our proposed driveway for lot 4. We've also prepared feasibility letters for septics, and a maintenance agreement has been sent to the town for our common drive easement at this point. Moving forward from what we discussed last month, I know there was some questions brought up by the public. One being the concern of us crossing the federal wetland area with a driveway for lot 4. We are not proposing any disturbance to the federal wetland, although we are allowed to disturb 1/10 of an acre or about 4,300 square feet which we are not proposing. We are proposing to only cross the drainage ditch, which serves the pond through the wetland area. So we are not proposing any disturbance to the wetland area. That is first and foremost. Moving forward, we have been in touch with the DEC, and we have no unique geological features, no water body or river stream classifications. We have no state wetlands. We have no significant natural communities, which includes things such as vernal pools and so on. And as a matter of fact, we don't have any of those even within a half a mile of our site. We have no rare plants or animals. That includes things such as the long-eared bat. And as I have seen in some correspondence, there has been notes of owls and eagles and so on. We do not have a habitat for any rare plants or any rare animals. We have no flooding issues. There's no base flood elevation needed there due to the fact that we are not in a flood zone. We are also not within any type of sensitive New York State Park District, which was another question that was brought up. Generally speaking, we have met all the criteria in terms of zoning here. And in all essence, this particular project has a minimal amount of sensitive topics in consideration with, most of our presentations that we bring from this office. Our most sensitive issue would be crossing the wetland ditch, which we have met with our site engineer. We're proposing no disturbance, and we are looking to simply cross it and not disturb it. But if we were to disturb more than 1/10 of an acre, a permit may be required from the Army Corps of Engineers. But at this point in time, we're not proposing that. With that being said, I'll let you take it from there, Chairman.
Thank you. David, Mr. Church, can you walk us through the issues or any concerns from our standpoint?
So previously, we talked about the driveway potentially crossing the wetlands, which Michael has answered, and identified with him that he had up to 1/10 of his client had up to 1/10 of an acre to disturb without getting a permit or a filing with the Army Corps. And then we were made aware of the neighbors' concerns about I'll call it wildlife. So I confirmed independently what Michael pointed out with New York State DEC and other data sources, that there's nothing on any register or inventory that calls attention to the property. And then we asked that Michael, for his client, be in conversation and get documentation from the highway superintendent.
And I believe we got the notes back from the highway superintendent, Gabby?
Let me check the file quick. Hold on just 1 minute.
While Gabby is reviewing that, we did meet with the highway superintendent at the site and did receive a verbal confirmation. And he confirmed with me that he would have no problem putting that in writing for us. So with that being said, I think that's on the lighter end of anything that we may have here in terms of concerns. We also discussed last month that feasibility letters for septics were acceptable. We went ahead and did that. We did meet on the site with the engineer. And while we were out there, we discussed the options for crossing the federal wetland, which we are looking at generally piping the ditch without any disturbance to any vegetation or anything along those lines. So with that being said, that covers those particular issues.
I
My
did
name
not
is-
get anything from Frank as of yet. Sorry for interrupting. I didn't get anything from Frank as of yet, but I can get something from Mr. Petremol tomorrow in writing.
Okay, that'd be great. I thought I saw an email, Gabby, on his comments.
Yes, that was for a different project on our
Okay.
agenda.
My name is Dennis O'Regan and my address is 192 South Road. You say that you're not going to disturb the wetlands at all. There is a wetlands there that's fed from a small brook that runs through our property. how is that going to continue to drain into the pond?
Mr. O'Regan, thank you. With that being said, as we get closer to the pond, and I would, ask you to take a walk down into there, because how we are planning is to generally cross as close as possible to the pond where the ditch crosses. Now, as we discussed last month, the width in terms of the breadth of the federal wetland is obviously nothing close to what is shown online. It is generally where the ditch is through there. We are planning on piping the ditch and crossing it. If anything, the drainage from where your lot is through to the area of the pond would probably only be benefited by our proposal, whereas we would pipe that ditch, which would in turn help the flow of the water. So by no means would we impede water buildup onto your property. If anything, I believe we would help to dry up any wetness in your rear of your parcel due to the fact that we would be piping that particular drainage ditch that ends up draining into the pond.
Okay, I would just like to have that on the record that if there is an issue with us, getting water, that it'll be rectified in some shape or form.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Ted Nordlander. Is there, other than what we're talking about right now, is there any sort of presentation that you guys are going to give us, or is what we have for this?
What we have is what we have, Gabby. I believe some of the documentation's online.
Right, we have that stuff. Okay, I just was wondering.
Excuse me,
Chairman,
can I go?
Chairman is Dave Church, the town planner. Just for clarification, there's a required second hearing for this project, so
Yep.
be aware of that if you're commenting.
Yep. And Michael, I just want to clarify your answer to the gentleman's question. I'm not sure what you're agreeing to. I just want to make sure I understand what you're agreeing to.
Well, I mean, whatever the issue may be, I mean, if the concern is impediment of water, I mean, we will certainly confirm that we will not back up water. I mean, I would encourage the board to take a look at what we are proposing there in terms of the situation. We're not really crossing a wide breadth of wetland, something that would back anything up. Everything generally flows into a stream there or a drainage ditch, which we just intend to cross at the highest point. So in all reality, we are not looking to touch any vegetation or anything along those lines. We are looking to simply put a culvert. We met with the engineer. The engineer, had suggested that we go with a 48-inch culvert where the driveway intends to cross the drainage ditch, which feeds the pond. Other than that, we are not really touching upon anything that is wet there. So that's why we are stating that there's no real need for even us to approach the Army Corps of Engineer for a permit, because we are really not we're not touching anything. So if there needs to be a note on the map that says that we will not impend buildup of water onto lands of O'Regan, I mean, that's fine, because that's really not even going to be an issue because we're not really looking to cross, like in terms of building a driveway through the wetland. No, we're only looking to pipe the ditch and cross at the pipe at the culvert. So I mean, it's kind of cut and dry. It's I've seen much more difficult situations where we've had to cross, let's say, a 60-foot width of federal wetland. Well, then it gets into more of a we need multiple culverts. In this particular situation, we're simply looking to cross the drainage ditch at one spot at the highest point and have a culvert pipe there. So there really should be no issue in terms of that.
Mike, about how far from the pond do you think you'll be crossing?
Well, at this point in time, we're showing the curb cut, which we met with Mr. Petromal at about 70 feet plus or minus from the utility pole. But after meeting with the engineer out there last weekend, we are hoping to get as close to the pond as possible, as those are the high points. And that seems to be the best area to enter into the rear lot, as it causes the least amount of disturbance to any ground there.
So Michael, when you say as close to the pond as possible, you're not moving to the west of the utility pole. It's all going to be to the east of the utility pole?
Yeah, the curb cut is where the curb cut is. Obviously, we can enter anywhere in there and cross the ditch, but in terms of preserving the wetland and so on, we are trying to aim at keeping the driveway at the highest point through that area to enter into the rear of what will be lot 4.
And do you know what the distance is between the utility pole and the pond, just for reference, when we say as close to it?
Let's just call it 70 feet on both sides to where the curb cut is. So we're about 130, 140 feet from the pond to the curb cut.
Okay.
So that crossing is going to be nearly 400 feet from the Reagan property.
Yeah,
So any
but that,
backup would be contained on that property.
no, it doesn't, because it would back up on that whole lot number, it would be lot number 3. I can see it's kind of small, but that backs up all the way across there. That whole area is a swamp.
And where we are crossing there with the pipe, I mean, I want to say that, you know, the situation that arises there is that I believe we would actually help the flow of water, because I mean, what is there is just a tangled mess of kind of a ditch and so on. I believe once we pipe it and are able to cross it, I think if anything, that is going to help the flow of water rather than impede the flow of water through and by the lands of O'Regan.
Hi, this is Dan Wynn. I'm the property owner. And I just want to say, we are keeping most of the wetlands that are there with the stone house on the 3 acres, except for the pond that's going to be on lot 4. And I also wanted to say that I think these lots are going to be an asset to the neighborhood. We've put a lot of thought into how this is being subdivided, and the house sites are sited so that they won't really be visible from South Road, and they'll also be private as possible from other neighbors. So.
Can I say something? Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Sharon, can you just state where you live and your full name, please?
My full name is Sharon Cross. I live at 225 South Road, and I am adjacent to lot number 1 and lot number 2. I'm the one that has the most contact with the, project on the south side of the road. My concern is also about the, stone formation that's in back of my property that is part of this, this whole thing. The fact that the well is looks like it's going to be near where that, rock formation is. And the other thing is that the septic looks like it's going to be close to the area where it would run off toward the stream on the, most eastern side of the whole project.
Okay, so thank you, Mrs. Cross. So generally, how we do this is in terms of when we have a lot that is over 2 acres, the proposed drive, proposed septic, and proposed well are obviously can be placed in many different positions, as we have a large area there that if we need to, move things around. With that being said, we did calculate that we are over 100 feet from the creek. That was one of the criteria that we had to meet with when we met the engineer. That was one of the pieces of criteria we had to meet. we have multiple areas in there which we have perk for a septic. So as in terms of being proposed, I mean, it fits in there in multiple areas. The well obviously has to be 100 feet from the septic, but 100 feet from the proposed septic could put the well in any place. With that being said, that doesn't necessarily mean that the well has to be in the particular area where we're showing it. And in terms of the rock formation that is behind your property, you can consider that a privacy buffer, because obviously that would never be developed due to the fact that it is bedrock and it does not turn into virgin ground in terms of soil until you head more east of your property. So with that being said, you know, you have a buffer on both sides that adjoin us. You have a great buffer of in terms of natural geological you know, outcrops of rock and so on. So
Now,
go ahead.
yeah, you know, the small plan that I saw, of course, didn't have measurements or anything that I could read. It was, you know, so tiny. I'm curious of what the distance is, you know, from my property line to where the driveway is going to go up and into these two lots.
Well, where the driveway will head will be like directly in front of the barn, the old barn that is there, and
I know where the existing driveway is.
Okay, so where it'll be a shared driveway off of South Road, and it'll enter right in front of the barn, which is would be to your left if we were facing your house.
Okay, what piece of property is the barn going to be included in on?
The barn will be on lot 1, and the barn will remain as part of lot 1.
There's only one house going on.
Okay, okay. Somebody else trying to talk?
Hi, so I don't know if you're done, Sharon. I don't want to cut you off. Did you get an answer?
That's fine.
Okay, I'm Betsy Nordlander. I live at 209 South Road with my brother Ted, who's on another call, my husband Derek, and Ted's wife Nadia. Some of our concerns, I guess, and I think their shared concerns, have to do with maintaining the sense of nature and remoteness and wildlife and ecology that drew us, and I think many others, to the area. So in particular, we're concerned about the old growth trees that are so beautiful and really come to characterize the area. And I know, you know, I don't know about wildlife classifications and whatnot, but I know that we live there and I know what we see come in and off our property, and there's quite a bit of wildlife. So I guess broad concerns we have are that that those things that drew us, and I think lots of others, to the area not be disturbed by whatever is planned.
Hey, Betsy, this is Mr. Ring. Have you considered purchasing that property to maintain the balance of nature that you are interested in?
Say that again. Which
I'm just trying to understand your desire to maintain the status quo. Have you considered purchasing any of the property at any point to maintain your view of how that property should be?
You mean when this house went on the market, did we consider when?
That's correct. You say you would like to maintain the status quo, and I'm just trying to understand if you've made an attempt to purchase the property to maintain it the way you'd like it to be.
We are not in a position, have not been in a position to purchase that entire property. I don't know whether these plots, these subdivisions are considered, you know, if you, Daniel, are considering selling off these properties before developing them, that might be another conversation, but that was not something that was in the cards for us to consider buying that entire property, no.
Is the chairman suggesting that the properties are for sale or will be for sale?
I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just asking a question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, with that being said, what I would like to point out is also the lands so to take this a step back, this was originally a 60-acre parcel. The remaining lands was 12 acres, all said and done, taking it back to the mid 1800s. All the adjoining lands were actually lots that were subdivided out of the parent parcel, including the lands of Norlander. That was an original lot subdivided out of the original parent parcel here. With that being said, also keep in mind that the minimum zoning for this area is 60,000 square feet, which is about 1.3 acres. So technically we not only have, but we had the opportunity to create much more than 2 lots on your side of the road there. We are trying to get back to what you were saying, we are trying to keep these lots as private as possible by bumping up the acreage of each lot. I mean, lots 1 and 2 definitely have the ability to have a 3rd lot in there at a minimum. So the zoning requirement is 60,000 square feet. We are nearly, we are over 2 acres with both parcels. So we are leaving an extra, technically privacy buffer in terms of the square footage and acreage of the land.
Not to cut you off, I appreciate that, and we've done our due diligence researching all of that. Derek Borowski, my husband here, is an architect versed in much of that. And I'm not here to contest that anything, but here to contest that you're not within your right. I'm asking that there be a consideration for, which it sounds like you're telling me you've built in, and I appreciate that, but there be a continued consideration for the beauty, the wildlife, the remoteness, the old growth trees that really characterize the neighborhood, not just for those of us that already live there, but Daniel, for your prospective buyers, who I imagine would be drawn to some of the same things. So again, I know you're well within your right. You're building in a buffer. You're above the requirements of the zoning, but I hope there can be a continued interest, as I said, in those things, because they matter a lot to those of us that have been there a while, and I think they'll matter to your buyers.
And just to add to that, I think the way that materializes, just in terms of design and decision making, is really about the preservation, I think, of a lot of the trees. The trees are, a big, that's really the ecosystem that we're in, and it's also kind of like all of our experience of the area. And I think what, many of the people on this call have lived here all their lives. We've only been there for about 15 years or so, but still have kind of come to love that area. And we are within the Catskill Park, and that wooded area is what drew us there. So we hope that in your development of this property, that you do consider, keeping as many of the trees, particularly the larger mature trees, above a certain diameter, to maintain some of that character and that ecosystem. And then, also just to point out that the house and the septic on lot 1 is really situated very close to our existing barn, which is currently used as a workshop, excuse me, and a music studio. And, we plan to develop that. We plan to put a living space in there as well, to refurbish it with a living space. So perhaps that's a conversation we have offline, but I think it's mutually beneficial that the siting of your new house is done in consideration with kind of what you're putting it right next to on our property. The last thing I'll add is that particular house does seem to be situated in what appears to be one of the oldest and tallest sort of stands of trees on that property. And again, I kind of put it out there for you to consider, that I think potential buyers, that would be an asset, as well as, everyone, here that lives in the area on the call. So those are some concerns that I think just would be worth putting out
Sure.
there.
I wanted to say a couple of things. This property had been on the market for a number of months when I purchased it. And when I made my offer, I was upfront with the Getty's children, the 3 kids who inherited. They're not kids, they're older people now. But I was upfront with my plan in buying this house was I was going to subdivide. And part of it has to do with the fact that the house itself is so close to the road. And I wanted to do some improvements to that house. But in order to justify it monetarily, I have to create these lots. So I was upfront with them what I was going to do. And my plan also is not to cut down any trees that aren't actively in the septic field or a house site. So I'm not going to clear cut, unlike what happened at that trailer park, which adjoins my property. So, which is a whole nother story, right, for everybody, I'm sure. So that's basically, what my plan was.
This is Ted Nordlander over at 209 South Road. Is that something that can be conditional as you sell off these properties? Because you're not going to be the final neighbor owner of properties. I think it's important that some of this stuff is written in so that we can be ensured, not just by handshakes and words, that whoever occupies the property next kind of keeps that consideration of the natural landscape intact, basically.
Well, I'm not willing to encumber my property by individually identifying certain trees that can stay or that have, or whatever. I just don't think that's reasonable. I wouldn't expect it to ask it of you, certainly.
So I guess the question though is like, is there something, because our properties are, neighbor each other, and the house as it's drawn now is very close to, is about as close as it can be. Is there, I think it's worth considering what, I don't know, the ways to protect both of our interests in that is basically.
Right. I was at the site today, taking a look specifically at the proposed house site for lot 1. And that is a proposed site. It doesn't have to be, the actual site. And in fact, it may be the actual best site might be a little bit further south. But I also noticed that your house, your living corner from my property.
Right.
Sorry, I think
your house
Cut out in there for a second.
Okay. I said your house is kind of at the opposite end of the property.
Right.
So it's quite a distance away. And the frame barn of yours that's near the property line tends to actually obstruct the vision from your house to where this new house would be. So you wouldn't even see it unless you're in your barn looking out at it.
Right.
At least
we are in our barn.
The land, that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah, I mean, and it was laid out the way it's laid out since we bought it, so it's not like anything that we changed. But like Derek was mentioning, that we are planning on rehabbing that barn into a second livable space. We've got more members of our family, and also like Derek said, that is a workshop and a music studio that I'm using, and it would just stink for whoever buys your house to have to listen to saws and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's, something to take in consideration, I guess.
Okay. And I mean, we'll see what happens. I've been going back and forth whether to build houses myself or possibly sell these as housing sites. There is, from my understanding, is there's a great need for housing sites right now in the town of Ulster. And any houses that would be built would certainly be an asset to the neighborhood. They're going to be higher end houses because that's basically what's going on right now. So.
I guess what makes it attractive is that it is wooded, and I appreciate that you guys had thought that through, and that's something that is important in your selling point, as it is important to us all living here together, basically.
Yeah, and maintaining a sense of privacy between the properties.
Anybody who built.
Yeah, and it's not an abandoned barn, I think, is the point I think that we want to stress it's an actively used structure. It's a space we use a lot. So, and we'll be using more in the future.
Okay.
Hello, this is Susan Caswell.
Hi, Susan.
Hi,
Where do you live?
I live on 261 Main Street in Lake Katrine. So I am below my wonderful neighbors, the Norlanders that have just spoken. Mr. Nguyen, welcome to our community, and I do understand the financial implications of having to subdivide to improve your house, the stone house. My only concern is, Mr. Nguyen, you were up there today walking the lot, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if you go over that stone wall that's on my property, about 30 feet, there's an extreme drop off to the waterfall. Have you seen that?
I did see the waterfall today. Yes.
Okay.
Very beautiful.
It is beautiful. My concern as a mother is, since you will not be living on that property, that whoever has it, that they're briefed on the danger of, if they have small children or pets, if they go over that stone wall and they're running, or they're not going to fare well if they go over that, if they're not watching their footing. I don't even really go up there that much myself, but so it's just more of a safety concern for whoever does live up there.
Okay. My property does end before that drop off. So that drop off is not on my property.
It isn't on your property, sir, and I understand that, and I'm aware of it. But I'm just saying, as a concern, just to have due diligence to educate and point that out to whoever is living there, that the danger of that drop off. Because if they have toddlers and they're off the toddler, or they have a dog and the dog is running, they go over that, it's going to be a pleasant situation. That's all. So it's just a matter of safety.
Okay, understood.
The idea is to keep the stone walls as they were. There won't be any other fences or anything like that, Daniel?
I'm not personally planning on putting up any fences.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Will the stone walls be, I actually don't know whose property technically the stone wall is, or if it's shared, but I'm assuming those have some, you're not planning to remove any of that, are you?
I'm not planning on it. Those stone walls at your side of the property straddle the line.
Yeah.
So
I would think those they seem historic in nature.
They're mutually owned by the parties as the wall lines are the boundary lines. So both parties have rights to the wall. So no, they are not able to be removed by either party.
Wonderful. Thank you for that clarification.
Jean, I think you're on mute still, Jean. Jean?
Yep.
There you go.
No. Am I on or no?
Yes, Jean, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay. All right. My name is Jean McGarry and my husband is Jim. We live at 180 South Road, and I'm with my brother, Lester Felton, who lives at 174 South Road. The lot 4 is what we're concerned about. Mainly, my brother will go into more detail, but we have some concerns about drainage, wells, leach fields, and also our own privacy issues, which how far is there one house going in lot 4? Is that counting Fettis's house, the stone house? Or is there that the second house, or is there 2 houses going behind us? I'm not sure.
There's one house proposed on lot 4 and the Fettis's house would be lot 3. So there would be
Okay.
one home, one septic and one well proposed in the rear of your property.
And how far from the stone wall from the property would you be building?
Our rear yard setback on that side is 30 feet, but that leaves, that we don't necessarily set the home site. What we do is we show the zoning setbacks. Anywhere within the zoning envelope is an acceptable buildable area. The distance from the wall back would be 30 feet, but obviously that wouldn't be the most desirable area for a home back there. Although the lot is generally flat, I don't believe that would be the best home site. You're probably looking at 90 feet or greater from the wall for a home site, but zoning requires us to be at least 30 feet from the wall behind McGarry, and we would be a side yard setback would be 30 feet from lands of Lester Felton also.
Okay, I'm putting Lester Felton on right now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes, the parcel or lot number 4,
Yeah.
those 4 acres, are they including the pond and also when you come in from South Road to the stone wall that runs east and west?
They're including from the stone wall, which abuts the trailer park and your lands, along South Road up to about 70 feet past the utility pole, which is on the eastern side of the pond. That is shown on the plan that was provided to the town. And then it heads back along there and along the stone wall, and creates a lot of nearly, it's over 4.5 acres, 4.6 acres, which again is nearly 3 times the required zoning.
Yes, but my question is, on lot 4, you're showing that it's 4 acres. This 4 acres, is that including the pond?
Yes,
Is it
yes,
also
yes,
including this, when you're coming in from South Road going north, you have the stone wall that's running east and west. That parcel of property, including the pond, is that considered all in the 4 acres?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, it's actually 4.6 acres. And I just want to say that I think
not from
any
what I'm
house-
seeing here, it isn't saying that. It's not saying 4.6 acres. It's saying 4.007, if I'm not mistaken correctly.
Mike,
That's what I'm showing here. This is what I have.
Yeah, it's 4.607. That 0 you're looking at is a 6. It's 4.607.
Okay, now.
And I just want to say that I think that any house that's built on that lot will, they'll do their maximum to maintain privacy, because is what people want. And when I have walked that lot and I've stood in what I think are the best building sites there, I don't see any other houses in sight.
Okay,
You would
I've
have to
lived
see,
here-
you see my house.
Yeah.
You have to see it.
my sister and I have lived here for
Mm.
70 years. We've looked,
Well,
we
not
know
so-
what that parcel, well, no, but we grew up here.
Yeah.
Now, from the north end of the pond, okay, 180 feet back is nothing but swamp and water. I can stand up on top of my hill and I can look down and see that whole area. There's a swale in there that's like 90 feet from my stone wall up to the flat part. There's right now, even when we had the November 30th heavy rain, had that heavy snow melt here on December 17th, it floods back all the more. When I built my home in 1975, I have 3.32 acres up here. My septic system, leach field and everything, I'm quite sure they are much more strict now. and I had no wetland at all where my leach field is, and it had to be 40 by 60. Wherever you put a leach field up there, how is it possibly not going to leach into that pond? That pond has wildlife, muskrat, fish. You have swamp over on the other side. How is a leach field not going to leach into somewheres along the line there? This is my concern right now. I don't own the pond, but I don't want to see the pond destroyed either. So you're talking about a parcel of land that is not 4 acres or whatever that you're saying. Actual building area would be only on the flat part up there. Any place that you look down in that swale, you're gaining water. There's nothing but a swamp.
Well, I disagree, and I'm willing to meet you at the property. I'm willing to show you the house site. I'm willing to show you the proposed septic location. And you'll see that it is quite dry there. I'm willing to meet you there anytime.
Okay, that'll be good.
And I also want to say that any septic that's approved there, it's, you know, the county is the determining body as to location, you know, locations for septics, distances from wetlands and such. So, you know, in order to get a septic approval, we have to meet what the county requirements are, and the county signs off on it.
Have they done that?
Not yet.
Okay, so we would have to decide when we could meet with you and look at that. We're also worried about wells, how will this affect with other houses? I mean, both of us have had to have a second well or a deeper well dug. I don't know if that's a concern to anybody else, but it can be a problem around here. So if you have 3 more houses coming in, that could be problematic. Are they there? Hello?
Yes. I mean, in my experience, where you have an area with a pond like that, it does, to me, it indicates that there really shouldn't be any issue with drilling a well on that spot.
Well, there has been
having water.
No. Groundwater really, that pond has nothing to do with the well. That has nothing to do with it. There's people down on the Hudson River that have gone down 600 feet and can't get water. On the other aspect too, it's kind of heart-wrenching that my sister and I, after growing up here, would have to look into this parcel, that I would have to look down at someone's house and she would have to look at it. So as other people also have been concerned about this, we're concerned about the same thing.
Keeping the trees
Yes.
as much as possible.
Yes.
These trees have been here a long time. The animals have been here a long time. So obviously, when it comes to dollars and cents, it's not important to you. But for us who have a stake in the area, it's very important.
It is important to me that these sites have private building, that these lots have private building sites that people will find attractive. That makes total sense to me, and they will be. And I know, did you know that the house had gone up for sale? Were you aware
Well,
that?
the house has gone up for sale. If you're implying that we should have all bought up all of Ruby, I don't think all of us, knew. I thought the house was for sale. I had no inkling about the lots or anything, that they were being sold. But I mean, to imply that we should have all bought the land, I mean, that's ludicrous. We weren't even, I just thought Edith Fettis's house was for sale and that was about it.
Yeah, I want to second that comment and just reinforce that it's unfair to suggest that, that the town would be able to necessarily afford that property as it was. If you're offering, selling off parcels, then you can speak about that. But I'd like to kind of strike that from the record, if you will.
Like I said, I'm willing to meet with anyone to meet at any.
We would like to meet with you, and I just have to. When is good for you?
And we would as well.
If you tell us a time when it would be good for us to meet with you, that would be fine.
Okay. I don't know, should I give my number out at a meeting? Mike, what's your recommendation?
I think you guys could probably work it out through Gabby. I think that would be the best bet. This way it's all on record and there's a an email chain. So Gabby, is that okay with you?
Yeah, we could
Who's
do that.
Gabby?
If they all call me at the office and we could set something up, I could schedule it in.
She's the person at the
It's
town.
I concur.
It's Gabrielle. She's the secretary of the planning board.
Okay.
I would like to add one more thing, if I could here, if it's possible.
Mhm.
On the checklist that Mr. Viteri supposedly went over, on number 14, I have identified the typical habitat types that occur on or likely to be found on the project. Check all that apply. He never did. So I noticed on here, there's two things, wetland and forest. Why didn't he check that? It's what it is wetland and it is forest.
That may be of something that was missed, but in terms of those particular items, I mean, there is a federal wetland there, and we've disclosed that multiple times at this point in time, and they are governed by the federal government, and it is not a state wetland, it is not a DEC regulated wetland, so that is in all reality a small portion of what we are proposing here. And again, to go back to what I said, 40 minutes ago when I started this, we have met all the zoning criteria. We have met all the permitting criteria and so on. And this particular subdivision is quite simply not so strenuous in terms of the amount of sensitivity that I see in other particular subdivisions. This one is quite straightforward. If it was not for that small portion of the national wetland, federal wetland that we have there, I mean, this would be a very, very cut and dry subdivision. We have achieved all of our permits otherwise. So other than crossing that small portion of federal wetland, we have really nothing here that is really barking up our tree in terms of zoning issues. I understand everybody's concern with privacy and so on, and I feel my client, Mr. Wynn, feels the same way in terms of the privacy. But otherwise, this particular subdivision is pretty straightforward. We've met all the zoning criteria. And again, if it wasn't for that small portion of federal wetland, we wouldn't be dealing with any of this because it would be very straightforward in terms of our approval. So I would leave it with that.
Well, it's straightforward, but it's still a little gut wrenching when we think of the possibilities of what it might turn into be. And I hope you are looking into the privacy issues, the environmental, and also our concerns about drainage and wells and leach fields and other things. So we will be calling to set up an appointment to walk through the site with you.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Michael, I'm not sure that, that anyone on the call is qualified to argue whether you're as of right and whether you fulfilled a lot of technical obligations. I think really what you're hearing is just an appeal to the board to consider the longtime residents of the area, their desire to preserve the character of the area. And I know that development is, that's what we do. We all live here because at some point, as Michael, as you mentioned before, this was one large parcel. It's been slowly subdivided. And we're, again, as longtime residents, we're aware of the history. I think we're just asking the board to just consider that in some way, if this is granted, that it is with consideration of trying to preserve the natural character and the rural character and the privacy of the area. Yeah.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Mr. Nordlander. I do, in terms of that. We try to keep that in mind with regards to all subdivisions. I think with this particular subdivision, my client, Mr. Wynn, has certainly taken that to heart. So I would, again, encourage you guys to connect, speak. Maybe you guys, all parties, including the McGarry and Felton parties, everybody kind of get together and come to some kind of agreements. I think that would be great. And again, I mean, that would be, on behalf of my client and not so much on behalf of myself.
I'm
Hi,
just gonna-
this is Sharon.
Oh, sorry. Sharon, did you want to go?
I'm sorry, if I could just say one thing. My name's Megan McGarry. My in-laws are Jim and Jean McGarry. We have a family stake in the property at 180 South Road. I had some trouble getting on the meeting, so I'm curious, and if I missed it, I apologize, but have you done a full environmental impact study on the possible outcome of developing those lots?
What the town requires is an environmental assessment, short form Part 1A, and that was completed.
Okay, so you haven't done any soil depth, bedrock studies, wildlife implications to confirm the well depth situations?
Yeah, none of that is required by zoning or any of those particular quasi-governmental issues. What we do have is an engineer that came out there and performed perk tests. We dug holes. Generally speaking, it's kind of hard to base septics and so on. At this day and age, I mean, technically you need a foot of soil for a septic. Those kind of things are really things that are external to our proposal and are not generally required and, are not required by law, I should say.
Do the number of existing wells in the area have an impact on drilling and whatnot that goes into putting in new lots?
No, what comes into play is that we do not, that there's no septics within any existing well locations, within 100 feet of any existing well. And that, we have so much space there that would never become a problem. I mean, we could put septics and wells in a multitude of places along the site.
Okay, this is Sharon again. I was just curious, is Mr. Nguyen going to be living in 240 South Road?
I am not.
Okay.
Okay. If there's nothing else, then I'll give a minute to see if there's anything else, but I want to thank Mike and the neighbors for, voicing your concerns and talking about the project. But I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing. There will be a second public hearing scheduled, but I'd like to close this public hearing.
I'll make the motion, we close the public hearing.
I'll second it. Gabby, can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Hayner,
Okay.
I'm here, yes.
Mr. Almquist,
Yes.
Mr. Decker,
Yes.
Mr. Stavropoulos,
Yes.
Chairman Ring.
Yes. And Gabby, the process will be, this will be scheduled on the docket for next month for the second public hearing. Is that correct?
Correct. We'll need a motion to schedule the second public hearing for the second Tuesday of February.
I'll make that motion. Yep, I'll second it.
Can you call the roll, Gabby?
Ms. Hayner,
Yes.
Mr. Almquist,
Yes.
Mr. Decker,
Yes.
Mr. Stavropoulos,
Yes.
Chairman Ring.
Yes. All right, thank you all.
All right, thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
David, I know I'm coming in the middle of some of the old business, the site plan for 36 Sawkill Road. Can you walk us through what we need on that one?
Yeah, so I don't know, is Gabby's the applicant with us?
Yes, they're online.
Okay. We had one appearance at a board meeting related to the proposal of a warehouse a warehouse facility on a fairly large piece of property. There's a variety of discussion and representation about that. I did a review. A key issue that boards discussed in that one meeting with the applicant was there's a representation that he prefers sewer, town sewer, but however, it's not in a sewer district. So we'll need to walk through that and the sewer superintendent, the wastewater superintendent's aware. There was a fair amount of discussion about the road and parking, particularly the parking located right on the road. That's the stub road there, the cul-de-sac. And some discussion of the purpose of the future parking identified on the property. Additionally, there's a mapped flood hazard area significantly on the, I guess, south and east of the property. And there was some board discussion about future development activity since the parcel is a notably larger parcel. And there was some kind of speculative discussion about future expanded uses there. So those were the primary ones. I think, as I've noted in reviews, we're really in discussion here, primarily for two issues, one of which, well, three, I should say, in terms of referrals. One, we got, I guess, Gabby, 2 hours ago, the county comments, which we'll have to review. Two, the applicant was informed that he needs to reach out to the state Historic Preservation and Parks Department, the State Historic Preservation Officer, because the property is identified as archaeologically sensitive potentially. I don't know if that response from Albany's been received yet. And then we need some further discussion and ultimately documentation from the wastewater superintendent about the prospect of access to sewer there, which will require some significant details we have not received yet.
And David, on the original plans, I don't know, when it was before the zoning board, they talked about extending the road all the way through to make a second exit from the Barbarossa Lane area. Was that on discussion here as well?
Members can correct me, but I don't think it was at the planning board meeting.
Okay.
It had been approved years and years ago. It was just never built, which was discussed at the last meeting.
Right. Yeah, so I'm Morgan Coy. I'm the applicant for this. And essentially, I think mostly tonight is just kind of a check-in because we just got most of the notes within the last day back from the county just 2 hours ago, and then, or a few hours ago, and then also from Vincent from the sewer board and the highway department. So from my quick reading of those notes, there were a few things definitely to look at as far as from the county. They wanted drainage plans shown. So that's something that, we're working with engineers, a civil engineer, to look at that. The sewer connection is major, and that's one of the things that even before, that was a known issue and one that was recommended to look into the value of doing actual sewer connection as opposed to septic for a variety of reasons. And so that was something that we had known for a year, and that we're going to actively, work with Vincent on as well. I talked with him earlier today about how we can meet and talk about what the path forward on that can be and how that can be a benefit, hopefully, for that area as well for potential future development. But also as I think we know, the less septic that we create, the better. So being able to have actual connection to municipal sewer would be beneficial for an area close, especially close to wetlands. But you know, it also makes sense to be able to tie in, since there's a pump station literally right across the highway right there. So it's a process, but one that I think is ultimately smart for the infrastructure connection. And then finally, talking about the first thing you talked about, I had submitted to the parks department before the new year. So, I mean, it's been with them for probably 3 weeks or so. Made contact with the person who is actually in charge of the parcel. And so we're waiting for any kind of feedback from them. So I think in reality, I think it'd be great for us to just discuss about the plans for the sewer moving forward and address any questions that anybody might have about it. But we don't have the responses to all the notes as far as being able to actually ask for anything. So it's just sort of touching base and hearing comments and thoughts. So.
Yeah, it's Dave Church. Did you get that highway superintendent's memo? Oops, sorry. Have you seen the highway superintendent's memo?
Are you asking me or asking Morgan?
I'm asking Morgan.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So as far as snow removal and the extension of that, yes. I mean, the reality is that when I bought this from the hospital, they did not sell me this tiny little portion, which actually is the space where the snow gets piled up. So they still own that little end piece right there. They wanted to hold on to that because they wanted access for the other building right next door, the medical building that's there. However, they did say that if I build the road to make the connection, which was approved back in 1987 to be built, that at that point in time, they would deed that over to the town of Ulster, as I would as well. So that is the plan. If we can figure out a way to build this proposed road, obviously up to the standards that would be required, because ultimately it would be given over to the town of Ulster, as it is already currently maintained by the highway department. But in the meantime, I'm absolutely open to any kind of solution needed for figuring out how to deal with snow removal or just, having a place to plow the snow into. If that had to be on some part of my land, I'm absolutely open to that and would be into looking into how to do that appropriately.
Morgan, I'm glad you brought up the hospital. I'm Jason Kovacs, town attorney. I spoke to Frank Petramal today, and I would encourage you to reach out to the hospital, talk to them about this strip of land that you're referring to. I think the town would be interested in acquiring that for the purpose of expanding Barbarossa Lane, or actually, I believe the town already maintains a good chunk of the road on that strip of land. So I think that would kind of work for your benefit, the hospital's benefit, as well as the town. So,
I will reach out to them, but they're not the easiest group of people to deal with, mostly because they are a group. But I will absolutely, I tried to give them, because I have an easement, a legal easement on that land, so they can't block me off from it. And I was willing to buy that piece of land and give them the same easement, but they were not open to that for reasons that I don't really understand. But I'm absolutely willing to try to open up that conversation as well.
I would suggest reaching out to them again, and if you still don't get any feedback, let us know.
Okay, will do.
So Morgan, you know how to reach the folks in the town like Vincent for sewer to have a discussion with him. So you have what you need from this meeting?
I think so. I mean, I think we can keep it short. I'm happy to, I appreciate the notes and I appreciate keeping everybody in the loop about what's happening and definitely getting these feedback, like the pieces of feedback. So I will plan to meet with Vinny and also with an engineer to sort of talk about the proposal to the town of Ulster, right? Because that would not be something that would go to the planning board. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, this is the planning board. Yep.
Oh, so, right. I mean, I know this is the planning board, but but the question of expanding.
Yeah, the decision on expanding this Washington Avenue sewer district to encompass your properties would be a town board decision.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's sort of the question for that is,
So Morgan, it's Dave Church again. So all this has to be incorporated into the site plan that the planning board reviews. In this case, in coordination with the town board.
Right.
Correct.
One option you could have is to, if you think you're ready, the first Wednesdays of every month, there's a workshop where planning board members and staff are at.
Okay.
Which might be to your benefit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And we can go over some of the details and maybe you could get better positioned if we want to be progressive for the February meeting or the March meeting, if that's what it takes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm we've got a lot of time at home these days. So hopefully we could try to make that happen. So but I think
just coordinate with Gabby. Coordinate with Gabby if you want to, you think you're ready to come to a workshop, and we could discuss this more fully and informally.
Great.
Okay, Morgan, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Okay, bye now. All right, so under new business, we have JLM. This is Morton Boulevard site plan amendment. I believe it's for the drive-through at let me unmute. Yep, I think you're unmuted now, sir.
Okay. Yes, that's exactly. That was the old TCBY yogurt location, 1090 Morton Boulevard.
Okay. David, what do we need on this one?
Well, we now have some detailed comments from the water department. We've got a series of comments from the highway department. We need to talk about the circulation plan. At the one appearance the applicant made was really kind of preliminary. So I think there's a number of details that we have to talk through with the board and then get on the site plan before you can position this for a final decision.
Okay.
And I think that I don't know if the applicant saw the highway superintendent's memo. Have you
Yes,
seen
I can address some of those now if you like.
It's up to the chairman how he wants to.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, one of the things was a concern about the sewer cleanouts, which are on the left side, the northern side of the building, which as we take that out, they would be done would be lowered. Allow plumbing to those. Basically, I've only used them in 25 years, one time. But they would be lowered to be street level with the drive-in level. Written agreement with my neighbors on the south side of the building. I do have an easement agreement with that security supply. So that's pretty much on the other side. I never really had an agreement with him, but it's not really close to the line there. It's about 40 feet away. So I have talked to him before about an easement, but he wants to charge me for an easement. So I didn't think that was appropriate for him.
Well, so again, Dave Church, if you propose to use any neighboring property as part to make your site plan work, the town's going to have copies of those agreements.
Yeah, I can give you copies of the one agreement, no problem. Absolutely. Signs on the plan, when me and Warren walked the plan, we came back around and decided that maybe in the planters, we could put signs that say entrance and exit. So I'm fine with doing that. I would like to do it. The only thing I don't know is the traffic details have changed. I have no idea. I don't know if anybody can tell me how to detail that. I don't know. I mean, the nice part about this one is it goes around the back of the building, so the traffic will be off the road. Where the other establishments in town that have drive-throughs, they have traffic problems because they just don't have enough room. And the way this is set up, the traffic will be off the road. You could fit 10 cars back there if it had to be. I'd love to say that that's going to happen. I hope that answers that question. I did talk to John Riley today about the drainage and also Ulster Avenue. And really, it doesn't reflect with him, the Ulster Avenue, Morton Boulevard. It's more of the town of Ulster. I hope that answers that. Anything else?
You're speaking to the state DOT.
Yeah, I talked to
It's
John
referenced.
today.
Okay.
Yes. Is there anything else I can help you with?
I think there was there's sort of a general issue that we need to talk through about I mean, the drive-through makes perfect business sense, particularly in these crazy times with
Yes, it does.
with takeout service being primary. Yet we're gonna, I think, with Warren and myself and the board, we're going to have to figure out the parking arrangement and how the circulation works. It's the issue was raised informally about if the drive-through backs up. It's good news that you're not on a public street. But the challenge is if that does queue up, is it going to conflict with the parking?
That I don't know. Maybe we should walk it and kind of just, me and Warren walked it. We didn't think so, but I'm more than willing to walk with anybody.
Joe, have you proposed that the parking you're adding in the back be for the employees of the business?
Yes, absolutely.
So that would
So they're going to be,
alleviate-
in that point, that's a very good point, is that the employees would be parked there pretty much all day. So,
Yeah, so people coming into the walk-ins would be able to get into the front.
yes.
So that alleviates some of that congestion.
And-
The
and
other, go ahead.
Yeah, and every lease I draw up with my tenants, they have to park in the back. So they're not allowed to take up any parking in the front.
Okay, I believe Frank had a question. I don't know if it made it to his comments about, you were piling the snow where we're proposing the new parking in the back.
Yeah, what's happened, there's still gonna be an area there to put some snow unless we get a major storm. And always in the major storms, I have it actually picked up and moved. I mean, and we've only really had one or two major storms where that's happened in 20 years.
Well, I'm going back farther than that. I can remember when we used to get a lot of snow.
No, I know. Yeah, I do too. But that hasn't happened only twice in my lifetime of being the owner of that plaza. But I don't like a lot of snow around either because it does take away from parking. But when we decided on the parking in the back, we actually picked up 2 extra slots when we gave up the side ones. Because when I bought that plaza, that was pretty much gravel in the back. There was nothing used back there. So I put all that blacktop back there. And when I do this, I'll probably do a lot of repair on my blacktop and put in new striping and new lines. So it's all uniform throughout the plaza. So I'm trying to do everything I possibly can to make it right and make it work. Because it's real important in this time frame to have a drive-through for a restaurant today. Scary out there.
The other question I had for the sewer department is what type of restaurant are you putting in and what?
Great question, Vincent. I've been shooting for something that's already was in there, like the TCBY yogurt. I would love to find that. I think there's a need in town for another option on an ice cream place. And there's room there. And he had a very good business. He was there 35 years. So that model works. But if something else does come along that's better and it requires putting a bigger grease trap in, we're going to do that.
Okay.
That's definitely going to happen.
All right.
Good question,
Thanks.
though. Chairman, anything else you could think of?
David, how are we? Are we good on, I don't see any more on the comments here.
No, I think if Joe's willing to meet with his engineer and go through these items, get it on detail, maybe he should bring that to the workshop too, and first thing in February.
Yep.
And then you can decide if you want to, you can put it on the week after, if it seems ready to go.
I think that's a good plan.
Okay, so no, what to clear myself up? What exactly do you need from me other than I don't trying to get that clarified in my mind. What exactly do you need?
David, do you have the list of what he needs?
Yeah, I mean, Joe, if you want, I could put together a list and get it to you and Gabby and Warren, based on the comments we've received, and you can go over those with your engineer. Things like signage, you're going to have to go on the site plan.
Okay.
That show where what the circulation is for the drive-through.
Let me just, I don't know if this is the proper time, but I thought in the planners out front on either the north and south side, does that sound realistic to you?
What you propose, you're saying using planters for?
Yeah, there's the large planter that's in the frontage of my old property.
Yeah, yeah.
Put a sign in there for entrance and exit for the drive-through, as well as the other side too.
It could work.
That would work too, right? I think.
Joe, if you want, I'm agreeable to meeting you on site with your engineer.
Okay, that's great, Warren. Perfect.
So you got Gabby's number?
Yeah, I'll set it up.
Yeah, Warren, let me know, Warren. I'll try to be there.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, David.
And then we could, we do it, not too far into January. You can coordinate with Gabby about getting on that workshop meeting on the first Wednesday in February.
I'm ready. I'll be ready. Okay.
All right, Joe, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you,
Okay.
everybody. Stay safe.
All right. Next piece of new business is Terrapon Towers. This is, I believe, for a tower in the solar field behind the mall. It's a site plan amendment.
Actually, it's at the transfer station.
Transfer station, okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah, hi, my name is Brett Begellen. I'm Chief Operating Officer of Tarpon Towers. I don't know if some of the board members may recall, but it's been probably 2 years now that we were before you for the Highway Department tower that we did at that location in a partnership with the town as well. And we've been working with the commercial carriers such as T-Mobile and Verizon about their needs for this site that we're bringing before you tonight. The address is 901 Myron Lane, and as you all know, that almost 10-acre parcel is very long and narrow. We're here for a site plan amendment, and again, this is a parcel owned by the town as well as the partnership we did at the Highway Department. So what we're proposing here this evening is 192-foot monopole that will have capacity for the town antennas. if needed. I currently have T-Mobile and Verizon who have either signed a lease with me or are ready to as soon as this board is satisfied with our project and moving forward. We would be putting a 50 by 70 compound near the near the fenced area where the impound lot is. So hopefully none of you had to venture up there for anything involving that lot, but it's vacant except for that, and it's zoned office manufacturing. So I submitted an application. I'll keep my remarks short and take any questions, but we submitted a site plan amendment package, which had a total of 9 attachments to it, including a project summary and various forms such as a short form EAF, the visual EAF, and the like. So important to note, as I mentioned once or twice already, we're again in a partnership with the town for this project. We've engineered this tower so that it would not, if it was in the unlikely event of its collapse, it would not fall across the mall road. We've got an FAA clearance. We did a balloon fly on 11/19 during leaf-off conditions. And if you haven't looked at our application in depth, then I would turn your attention to page 4 of the visual resource evaluation, which is what I call sort of our heat map that shows where the visibility of the tower would be overall from the surrounding area. And I know it's a little hard to understand maybe, but the white area on the map is where the tower would have some visual identification. The other areas are the tower's largely or completely obstructed. It's obstructed, I should say, by either topography or vegetation. In general, I just want to mention a couple things that make this parcel attractive. Number one is there's minimal land disturbance. The area where we're going has already been filled with various, I wouldn't say debris, but just according to Frank, that's where some of the fill was put in that they've accumulated over time. We've got no sensitive plants affected, no wetlands, no sewer, no water. There's no new driveway needed, and our visitation there would be once a month at max. So in terms of burdening the driveway off of Myron Lane, it's negligible. With that being said, I'm happy to take some questions from the board. Obviously, if there's anything I can't answer, I can always take that away and find an answer for you. But we're seeking to get approval on our request and move forward from there. So.
On the FAA report, I know that it's not tall enough to mandate being lighted. Do you guys typically light those towers?
No, we do not, only if it's required by the FAA.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Brett Warren, Town of Ulster Building.
Yes, sir.
So I have just a couple notes. We just found out that the town pad that we requested last time, the 4x4,
yes,
was not big enough.
Okay.
We're having a hard time fitting our equipment inside.
Okay.
They requested an 8x8.
Okay.
I couldn't find anywhere on the plan the number of meters. That was also an issue we had. It was a verbal that we were going to have 4, and the contractor never got the note. So he installed 2, and then we had to have him come back and install 2 more, because I guess we're going to need at least 3. Verizon.
Yeah, that's a good point, Warren. I don't know. Let me make a note for that going forward.
I didn't find it on any of the elevations.
Okay.
And after seeing the installation here, I noticed on one sheet, it indicates that Verizon's going to have a generator, but it doesn't show up on the site plan. I believe the guys told me they don't do that. They only do batteries.
Okay. So this one shows it, yeah, you're right. This shows a generator. Let me, I can clean up those plans if that's not their intention. So that's no problem at all.
Okay. That was my list.
Gotcha.
David, do you have anything for Brett?
Well, I'll just note, you've got documentation so you can initiate seeker and refer this to county planning board, which will be required
Yes,
because
sir.
of its proximity to a county road. Brett, that'll put you to the February meeting. You know how the county planning works?
Yes, I remember when we did it for the site of the highway department.
The timing's such that they meet the week before this meeting every month. So you're kind of we're kind of on top of each other.
Yep,
So,
gotcha.
okay, and they only meet once a month. So that I had raised the question of the your independent engineer has the fall zone at 100 feet, which we know is kind of the 100-year ice storm fall, right? Like Quebec and whatever year that was. When these things will, you know, and I've learned that monopoles are specifically designed to collapse inward, right? Even if they fail,
Correct.
they don't tip over.
That's
So
right.
if the board understands that, engineering wise, the type of structure being used here is not, if there is a catastrophic failure, they're designed to collapse inward, right? On top of themselves.
Right.
They have a crumple zone essentially, that one side a structural failure, and it folds over on top of itself. It's
Right,
designed.
they don't tip over.
Right.
However, the independent engineer still had a fall zone of 100 feet, and the issue was raised about the west lot line, which is under 50 feet setback. I'm not sure what we do about in a relatively undeveloped parcel. I'm not sure what we do, Chairman, to keep in mind that kind of southeastern corner of that lot is going to be in a fall zone potentially.
Well, I think David, to be fair, let me go back to the engineer and see if we can achieve that. Because you're right, that, you know, I don't want to burden a neighboring property with that theoretical design of 100 feet when we could have designed it to, you know, to achieve a 48 foot basically is, you know, or it may be something where we move the site the tower slightly in the lease area to get more distance, even if it's just 10 feet, you know, from that lot line in order to achieve that type of design. But I have to go back to him on it.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll have to check. I thought the last cell tower went to town board for special permit due to its height.
There's should we defer this to Jason?
I would.
I had a conversation with Jason, and in my review,
We didn't go to the town board.
included the reference. It was there's legal memorandum that because of the nature of this type of project, it's not subject to the necessity of a variance or the special permit. So therefore, it doesn't trigger the height exemption standards that are included in the town code, but I'll defer to Jason to elaborate.
I think David is accurate on that. This project is on town property, and as we had a very similar request, it's very similar application a couple of years ago or last year by the same applicant. The town treated this as we were looking for site plan approval by the planning board, but that we consider the town to be exempt from local zoning laws and the special permit requirement of the town board. So we're exempt, the town is exempt from those requirements, but we do need planning board approval, and we will refer to the county and receive their comments.
You realize I knew that. I just wanted it on the record in case anybody questioned it.
I'm sure you did. Absolutely.
And so before we send it to the county, we need the full site plan with the revisions that were suggested here with the movement in relation to the neighboring property, so that we have the complete plans?
Arguably, yes, but Gabby, help me on timing with the county. Yeah, I mean, you could still do a resolution to refer it because there's time left to get those plans changed before sending to the county, which I think is a 2-week period. So 2 weeks back off of their meeting, which is that first.
I'm sorry, county meets on the 3rd of February. So technically the deadline is the 20th, but as long as I have most of it in, and it's just going to be awaiting plans, I could probably push it to the beginning of the week of the 25th to the 29th. I mean, the sooner the better, honestly, but I could probably push it at least a few days past the 20th.
So Brad, if you could cooperate with Gabby to get whatever you're going to update by the 20th of January, we can get on the county agenda.
Yeah, I think that based on the comments so far, it should just be, I could have it done by the end of the week. I mean, these aren't gonna, they require some work, but it can be accomplished. So we can do it much quicker than that.
Okay, and so David, one issue was the planning, the other was to initiate seeker.
Yes, to initiate by the planning board declaring itself lead agency.
Okay. All right.
Want me to read? Can read it whenever you're ready.
Yeah, why don't you read it?
Okay, so I've drafted a resolution as follows. Whereas the applicant Tarpon Towers seeks site plan approval for construction of a monopole public utility structure for co-location of wireless and public service telecommunications facilities. And whereas the applicant has submitted a complete site plan application to the Town of Ulster Planning Board in coordination with the Ulster Town Board, who have authority to lease the site to this applicant, including a submitted seeker short environmental assessment form. And I guess, Jason, help me, I'm going to strike the town board has final review because that's reference to the lease. We probably don't need that in there.
We do not need it in there, no.
Okay, so there's a short paragraph 3, strike that, Gabby and Chairman. And then we're going to go to now therefore be resolved. The planning board, based on a review of the application, determines to be designated as lead agency and to type the application as an unlisted action under seeker. Now be it further resolved, the planning board formally refers this application to the Ulster County Planning Board for review, consistent with the Ulster County Planning Board Land Use Referral Guide and New York State General Municipal Law 239.
Okay, and do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
I'm Chris here. I'll make the motion. Decker here.
Second.
Okay, Gabby, can you call the roll?
Ms. Hayner,
Yes.
Mr. Almquist,
Yes.
Mr. Decker,
Yes.
Mr. Stavropoulos,
Yes.
Chairman Ring.
Yes. Okay, David, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, the next piece of new business is glide path. I believe it's a lot line adjustment.
Yes, I'm here, Erin Hazen here.
Hi. How are
Hi,
you?
so I'm very good, thanks. I'm with GlidePath, and we are developing an energy storage facility that has been, we have a site plan approval, most recently amended in November 2019. During the course of our development, we purchased the land for this project. However, there was an error in the surveying that we had. So not all of the lands that we had purchased for the project were actually covered by the deed. We have since, our neighbor, Callanan Industries, corporately owned by Tilcon, very graciously sold us the parcel that we needed to then complete the project. And this lot line adjustment is to close the loop and formalize the new lot lines.
Okay. David, what do we have on this one? I believe this one's fairly straightforward.
Correct. So lot line adjustments in the town code are not subject to public hearing. They can be approved by just the planning board. And they are considered type 2 actions under seeker. So no further action with seeker is required since it's a simple lot line adjustment to correct an error. You can, and there's a complete application in front of the board, you can proceed to approve it.
Okay, is there any discussion from the board on this item?
I don't have anything.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Do we have a motion then on the table? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
You'll make the motion to approve the lot line adjustment?
Absolutely.
And we need to approve seeker type 2.
And approve seeker type 2. Okay.
Just
I'll
have
make
to-
the motion. I'll make the motion for both.
You only really need to state that it's, for the record, that it's type 2. There's no action required per se.
Thank you, David. All right, so the motion is to approve the lot line with the note that this is seeker type 2. And Frank, you seconded the motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, and Gabby, can you call the roll on this?
Ms. Hayner,
Yes.
Mr. Almquist,
Yes.
Mr. Decker,
Yes.
Mr. Stavropoulos,
Yes.
Chairman Ring.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, all space storage. This is another lot line adjustment. Is the-
Yes, good evening. This is my name is Sean Connor with the Seeker. Can everybody hear me correctly?
I can't, you're breaking up pretty good.
Okay. I don't know. Can I hear better? Hello? Hello?
I think we're still having some difficulty.
After you want me to get the ball rolling?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
So while we deal with trying to connect up with the applicant, I dropped a resolution here because which I think we should probably do we can approve this tonight, say it's similar circumstance, that's a type 2 action under seeker. So no further actions required, there's no public hearing required, and the planning board has the full authority to approve lot line adjustments. And there is a complete application. There's one unique condition, working with the town engineer. There is a sanitary sewer easement that was originally on the northernmost lot involved and will now be split by the two lots. So there's a condition that the town attorney wrote up in the resolution that to honor that easement now that it's split by the two lots. Otherwise, there's no other comments.
Okay, so that language ensures the town has access going forward.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Everyone should have the draft resolution except, I don't know, Jason or Gabby, Jason's language, the town attorney's language for condition 4 on the second page is now complete. I don't know if that got to everybody.
I think it may still have blank spots if I'm not mistaken, but I could fill the dates in.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll note if you've got the resolution, condition number 4 will now read, the existing sanitary sewer easement granted to the town of Ulster on August 12th, 1970, which was recorded with the office of the Ulster County Clerk on December 11th, 1970, in Lieber 1252 of deeds at page 600, and the existing sanitary sewer easement granted to the town of Ulster on December 23rd, 1971, which is recorded with the office of the Ulster County Clerk on March 8th, 1972, and Lieber 1274 of deeds at page 942, shall not be affected by this lot line adjustment and shall continue unimpeded. Reference to said easement shall be noted on the lot line adjustment map to the satisfaction of the town of Ulster wastewater superintendent and the town engineer. So that's a requested condition of the approval.
Okay, and the applicant is okay with that approval? Okay. Okay. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
None here.
As a reminder to the board, this is the sanitary sewer easement that shows up on the map on the north edge of the storage facility property.
Yep, okay. Well, I would like to make a motion that we approve the lot line adjustment, noting that it's seeker type 2.
I'll make that.
I'll second it.
Second. Okay, Gabby, can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Hayner,
Yes.
Mr. Almquist,
Yes.
Mr. Decker,
Yes.
Mr. Stavropoulos,
Yes.
Chairman Ring.
Yes. And Gabby, I have one additional packet for the Albany 7 LLC. I don't see that on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda because we're waiting to see if they receive their variances tomorrow, and they'll be back in February.
Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure we had that packet. Okay, so that concludes all of the business. We need to nominate a secretary for the planning board. And I would like to nominate to appoint Gabby as the secretary.
I'll second that nomination.
Gabby, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Hayner,
Yes.
Mr. Almquist,
Yes.
Mr. Decker,
Yes.
Mr. Stavropoulos,
Yes.
Chairman Ring.
Yes. Okay, it was a long night, but thank you for bearing with me on this first meeting of the year. I would like, if there's no questions or items to discuss, let me just see if there is. Okay, then I would like to make a motion, we close the meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
All right.
Bye.
All right, we'll see you next month. Thanks a lot.
Good job, Jeffrey.
Have a good night.
Right.
What'd you say, Andrew?
Good job, Jeffrey.
Oh.
Thank
It
you.
didn't come through. Thank you, guys.
See you February. Bye, guys.
Take care, all.
John, you all right?
Say again?
No, I was talking to John Moore.
Ah,
I was saying hello to John Moore.
Hello, Larry.
All right, that's it. Thank you.
all right, guys, thank you.